Welcome back to a special edition of the G-Funk Junkies podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share to help us grow. So without further ado, I present to you the long-awaited Foesum interview.
Back to the lecture at hand.
Perfection is perfected, so I'm a lad, I'm underground.
What up? This is DJ Glaze, the producer and one of the rappers in the group.
Yo, what up? This is M&Msta, the lyrical assassin. Giving you a shout out. Check one, check two. What it do?
What's going on? This your boy Big T-Dubb representing the LBC. What's up, Wise? Thanks for having us.
I'm doing all right, man. I want to thank all three of you for coming together and actually, allowing me to take a moment to hear your story.
I wanted to say, man, I've been following you for a little bit, and I saw that podcast that you did on us, about the Latino rap thing. I showed it to them. We reviewed it again last week when we met, and I just love how thorough you are, man, on everything. It's like you really did a lot of research. And
sorry, just cracked the tall can right now. I know it's a little early, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Damn.
All right. Yeah, no, definitely. So, just to give you guys a heads up, everything that I've learned about your group, your history, your music has all come through the internet mostly. This is the first interaction I actually have with you guys. Excuse me if there's some shit that like I get wrong or if I'm just unaware of some of the moves that happened. But if you guys could start from, I'm not sure how often you guys have shared the story, but give us a glimpse of what it was like, because I know you guys have been a group since the mid 80s, right? You guys all started as a group of DJs.
Yeah.
So if you guys can just enlighten us and let me know what those formative years were like, how you guys came together, because one of the things that really strikes me, that amazes me is that for the entirety of hip hop, you guys are probably one of the few groups that I can say was like a multicultural group from the get-go, right? Like, I think the only other groups I can think of were like Son Dubious, even Cypress Hill, right? Cypress Hill, you got a half Mexican, Afro-Cuban, and an Italian dude. But you guys are a Filipino, Blaxican, and a black dude. Tell me how you guys actually, I'm surprised that nobody has ever really touched on how you guys all came together, especially in Southern California, amongst, the rise of all this shit, the gang tensions that were in the 90s, and just hip hop in general, how that, solidified you guys as a group and your friendship.
I'll put it this way. We're what do you call it? Family. So it's like everything else goes out the window. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
When you're family, you're family. That's that. You don't even look at this or that or colors or any kind of stuff like that. None of that stuff really means that when you're family, it's like, that's what it is. You move from there.
Yeah. So did you guys grow up on the same block, or how did you guys come together and decide like, hey, we want to start, dabbing into DJing, and how did that slowly, transition into the MCing?
Well, we've always I think we probably started maybe in like junior high school. We started to DJ. We was always in it like music, but then we started off like DJing. Just DJing, trying to get equipment and do this and that stuff, and liking listening to the radio with the DJs. We have K-Day out here, so I was listening to that. K-Day Mix Masters, and we took a really good liking to that. And as time went on, we would elevate into more DJing at school, the school dances, school prom. We DJed everything at our school. Yeah. Everything, and then we DJ for other schools too, proms, everything, pep rallies. So we just starting from the beginning from DJing, that's how we started off. But then as time went on, it elevated. Then we went into rapping.
Yeah, but we did grow up in the same neighborhood. We were our parents, I guess, bought houses that were within the same block. So there was a lot of us that kind of hung out, and we used to listen to, a lot of old school music back in the day, a lot of Zap. a lot of Rick James, Morris Day, right, in the time, Prince, stuff like that. So that was kind of what we grew up off of. And then so when we started DJing, that was like what we specialized in. And then hip hop came out, right, and then we really liked hip hop. Back in the day, we were listening to like a lot of EPMD.
You got to chill.
You know, of course, NWA. And just everything that was coming from New York. But at the time, we were like, yeah, this music is cool. We would play it, but we were like, you know, we can make shit that's better than this. You know, at least that's what we thought. So we were like, you know, we'll start trying to produce our own record. When we got to high school, that was the idea. Was that, you know? Yeah.
So, you know, interesting thing about that, because when, you know, everything that I've watched and listened to and interviews that I've seen, the way that hip hop took form and shape on the West Coast was completely different than how it happened in New York and those other East Coast states, right? So yeah, I think a lot has been said about how our music scene was more of a party thing, kind of like how Miami had that Miami bass shit. We had the electro funk and all the other shit going down. Yeah. How did you guys transition, or do you think that NWA played a huge transition from taking that club party sound to more of like in your face fucking, you know, talking about what's really happening on the street, the you know, gang violence, the drug shit, the police brutality, and then, you know, the other lifestyle, which was, you know, cruising, low riding, the car culture, the kickbacks that California is more, the music is more akin to. How did you guys see that transition? Because I've heard your earlier stuff, right? Like the lost tapes, the demos that you guys had with Snoop Dogg. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, how did you guys find your sound amidst all that?
So, you know, what's funny is that when we were DJing, we were serious about DJing, right? Because we looked up to the DJs that were on K-Day, because like you said, I mean, LA and New York was a little bit different, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of good DJs in New York, but I think we had the best DJs in the whole world, right? And that was like Tony G, Joe Cooley, Julio G. You know, I mean, we just I think we set the standard as far as mixing and scratching. And you know, maybe I'm saying that because I'm biased because I'm from LA, you know, because I don't know what was going on in the Bay and all that stuff, but I mean, you know, what I used to hear, and you know, and it proves. I mean, you watch YouTube now and you can see, you know, like when Joe Cooley battled Cash Money, right? So we were serious about DJing back then, and we would play all that electro music. And we used to play, you know, like It's Time and Planet Rock and Egyptian Lover and Clear, and like we that's what we did, is that we were scratch DJs, right? We were down to battle and everything, and we did battle. And then that's when you know, when hip hop came about, it did kind of change a little bit, right? Because it went from that whole fast music to, you know, to slow and beats and bass and stuff like that, right? So that's when I think the beginning was kind of like when Boys in the Hood came out.
You know what? I think maybe the one that probably started would be 6 in the morning. 6 in the morning, police at my door. Fresh Adidas squeak across the bathroom.
And then like Posse on Broadway, right? Like all that stuff is coming out. And and it was, I mean, even from New York, like Run DMC and Raising Hell, and you know, they were already, the music was slowing down and it was getting rougher, right? It was getting more reality.
So let me share something that I read a long time ago, and I found this article a long time ago that I can't seem to find anymore, but it made a statement, and I'm going to tie it back to what you said about EPMD. Someone said that like West Coast music basically started with the sound that EPMD crafted, right? With the sampling of Zapp and Roger, because that's, you know, primarily what took a lot of influence here on the West Coast, right? Like you couldn't go, you couldn't find an album that wasn't sampling either Atomic Dog or More Bounce to the Ounce. As cringe as it is to say that now, like, oh, you know, that's probably like the laziest thing you can do is probably sample and loop that. But to me, it's still kind of remarkable, because you and I could hear the same song and we could hear something completely different in our heads, right? Like the way that we're interpreting music. But would you agree that EPMD kind of set the standard for what would take over for the West Coast sound?
Well, you know what? I would say this as a rap artist, like me personally, I would love to rap over those beats. The Zap and Roger and all that, do why did he? I would always love to do that.
We get out to the profile. Black or Mexican on the face with no smile. So the core system here try to strike us out.
What I learned was through like the different people that might have been making the beats. They were probably like, nah, you know, we can do something else instead of doing it. Instead of sampling, they kind of wanted to do something else, kind of like to get
right.
to use more of their like creativity as opposed to that sample, because that was like too easy.
But that's a producer's perspective.
Exactly.
Right? That's
exactly.
them as producers. And I don't always look at it like that, because you could take a dope sample if you flip it a little bit and make and make it new, right? Like and give it new life.
Now I want to talk a little bit about sampling. When you sample something, don't just loop it, but actually make it your own. Flip it or remix it, if you will. Make sure that though it sounds the same, it's different. What I like to tell people is this: be inspired, but don't copy. Do your own thing. Be creative, my friend. Stay up, Tony A lessons.
For me, it doesn't really matter. You know, you can say that it's lazy, but if it bangs, it bangs, right? I mean, the whole point of it is, that, you know, if people don't like the beats, if they don't like hearing what you're rapping to, they're not going to listen to the raps either, right? So
that's true.
You know, you kind of, I mean, I know a lot of people use it and love it is because they're classics. They're classic songs. I mean, I still DJ to this day, and I still play them damn songs. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, it's funny because you know, I've done weddings, man, and we'll start with like playing Bruno Mars and all that shit, but by 10 o'clock, man, we're playing Roger and Zap and Atomic Dog, because that's where it's gonna go. You know, that the party always goes there, right? Because when it's go time, when it's time to go down, those are the records that you play, and it doesn't matter how old they are.
That's primarily the reason. So when I started my podcast, I wanted to have like an introductory track, right? And stupid me, I forgot to add like, you know, the voiceover to say like, this is the G-Funk Junkies podcast. But right now it's just the instrumental playing, and I had a whole bunch of shit mixed in there. But like I wanted to make I wanted it to reflect what West Coast music sounds like to me, you know. And not sure if you guys have had a chance to listen to the 1-minute track that I had somebody produce for me, but you know, it incorporates the more bounce to the ounce part where Roger goes yeah, like that shit's always my favorite part of that song. I was like, all right, I want that shit. I want the fucking bass line from She Talks to Me With Her Body from the Barcades, you know, and I want all of this other shit mixed in there, you know, and it came out pretty clean, I think, you know, but it just hits you, right? Like as soon as you hear that, like, all right, like, you know, it's specifically tied to West Coast music. But what I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding about our music on the West Coast is that it's not a what's the word I'm trying to say? It's not a fad for us, right? So for other places, exactly, right? It's a fucking lifestyle, right? Like this is music that you know is set to a mood, right? Like lowride and cruising down the fucking boulevard. Like for me, when I'm cruising, you know, I want to play your music, right? I want to play some Foesum. I want to play some Twins. I want to play Warren G. I want to play some like underground San Diego shit. And that's what I love is that like it's very tonal, right? Like it sets the mood for like cruising, partying, kick back. Like our lifestyle isn't like New York where you're like, hey, we're gonna fucking freeze to death if we don't pay the fucking bills.
Yeah, it's different. It is different.
It's timeless, right? Like to us, it's like I've heard people say like, oh, the West Coast is stuck on the 90s, and it's like, well, you don't understand. Like this isn't a fad for West Coast artists. Like our sound is still persistent. Like I'm not sure if you guys were paying attention to. Yeah. It is, right? Like our style is the 90s, and it isn't just set to the 90s. This is shit that's been going around for the last, you know, 40, 50 years. Like it's it's the music, right? It's shit that you're gonna bump in your ride. I think even what's his name? Cold 187 from Above the Law. In what fucking documentary was this? He was talking about like comparing East Coast music that was like very fast paced. You know, they were on the funky drummer James Brown samples when we were more on the slow down, you know, like let's slow down the tempo. Let's like make the bass a little deeper. Let's put some grooves in it and some synthesizer. Like it's.
And then Dre came with the G-Funk. It's like, you know, it's to low ride, to ride with me.
And that's just because of how in Cali we brought up on grooves. We brought up on a lot of funky stuff. You know what I'm saying? From LA to the Bay, you know, we brought up on real funky music. You gotta move people, man.
It's way different, right? And so even now, since that took over in 92, you know, we're in 2023, 30 years later, we still have artists that still are very true to that sound. You know, I'm not sure if you guys know who Desi Hollow is from Oceanside, but he's bubbling up. And again, you know, he's got that same sound that was persistent in the 90s, and we're pushing it here in the 2020s, you know?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we've been watching. We know what's up on Desi. We've been following Desi. Yeah, hopefully we can you know, get together and do some work with them. So
yeah, that'd be cool. When you guys were forming, you know, you guys went through a cycle or a roster of artists. You know, one of my homies, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of the website khalifarap.net. You know, he wanted me to ask you guys a few things. He wanted to ask what your relationship with Snoop Dogg was like, and if you guys ever felt regret that he left the group and blew up on his own, or if you guys still remain cool. Like, what was that like? That and Domino.
I think you, the individual might be answering that question, asking the question about Snoop Dogg. He was never in the group with us. We were just all really good friends. Domino was actually in the group, and that was due to my brother Travvy Travy.
Rest in peace, man.
We set out to look for a rap artist while DJ Glaze and M&Msta were doing the tracks. Cause I wasn't even rapping. I was playing basketball and doing other things. So they went to a party at Milliken High School because my cousin Rodney went to Milliken and told my brother Travvy Travy about Domino. And so I guess Domino got on the mic. The rest was history. He brought Domino to meet Eminem and DJ Glaze, and we started formulating the group right then and there. So Domino was our first artist. Snoop was never in the group, but he was our homeboy because he's more of the twins. He grew up with the twins too. You know what I mean?
This is a really interesting family tree that you guys got going on, because, and I can kind of hear the influences in the sound, right? So when I listen to the Twins Conversation album, when I listen to Perfection, and when I listen to the Dove Shack, and I listen to Warren G's first album, I can hear the cohesiveness of the sound. And I'm not sure if that's due to Warren G specifically, or if that's just your area, right? If that's Eastside Long Beach sound. What do you guys would say is the formula for that?
I mean, we, you know, as far as production and our music, right, we've been influenced a lot by, I would say, Dr. Dre and even people like DJ Quick and Warren G, right? Everybody.
Okay.
So, you know, it is a sound. It is a. We like to think it's our own sound because if you listen to us, we come smooth and rough at the same time. We have different sides of us, right? So it just depends on what we're trying to do on the track. But yeah, I mean, we're students of everybody, you know. I mean, but like I said, we also listen to a lot of stuff from the East Coast too, you know. Yeah. So I mean, that's why some of our stuff we'll have break beats in it, and you know, where some people are not even doing that, you know. A lot of stuff we you know, we always like to incorporate samples. A lot of artists, they try to play everything, you know,
recreating the sound.
Yeah, or just making their own sounds, right? And that's not really, to me, that's not what hip hop is built off of, right? I mean, there's nothing when it comes to listening to hip hop or rap music or whatever. It's like it always comes from somewhere, you know. It's kind of been like that, right, since the very beginning. Even if you think of like Rapper's Delight, right, that was like a disco record that they used and they rapped over it. And
Right.
when you listen to some of our songs, you know, a lot of times, especially if I'm doing the tracks, right, they're coming from somewhere. There's a sample in there. There's something that gave it some inspiration. And one day you'll be at a CVS buying a card for your mom or something like that, and you'll hear an oldie or something that'll be playing, or just some old 70s song, and you'll say, damn, that's where Foesum got that song from, right? That was, Freddie Jackson or whatever, or Luther Vandross or whatever. And that's when it kind of like, it's almost like a treasure hunt, right? To find out what it was that we used and what we were thinking about that day. How did it grow from a seed, right, to a plant? So
No,
yeah.
I'm totally with you on that. Like I always I'm always on the hunt looking for stuff on YouTube, and every once in a while, like I'll run across somebody that makes their own beats or is producing like their own sound, and they'll always specify like, oh, this is like all original stuff. And I'm thinking to myself like, hey, kudos to you for like doing that, but like to me specifically, like sampling is the soul of hip hop. You know what I mean?
That's where it came from.
And,
It's
like to me when in the last like 10 years when the hip hop sound was devoid of samples, and I'm thinking like that's like a computer sound, like I don't want to hear something synthetic. I want to hear the soul. Like I want to hear, and this is what I loved about the SB 1200 is that like when you're listening to somebody program their beats, you can hear that there's like a slight lag in the drum kick or something, and it's like, okay, that there's that sound, there's that analog sound from plugging different equipment together, and then you're looping something. You're like, okay, you hear this little hissing sound, you hear just crackling. Like it's I don't know, I find something magical about sampling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like you said, I think hip hop was built off of that. So when you get away from that completely, I think you kind of lose a little bit,
Most definitely. Going back to Domino, he has an interesting setup, right? He came from you guys, landed on the Banging on Wax compilation, and then went solo. But what was the motivating factor for him to break away from you guys?
Well, I don't know what his intentions were, but maybe he always wanted to be a solo artist. Maybe that's what he wanted to do, to be a solo artist. But our group Foesum, which we were Perfection,
Back to the lecture at hand. Perfection is perfected, so I'ma let them understand.
We're family oriented, and we did our thing. We still doing it. So I guess, like I said before, I think I just maybe want to be a solo artist, solo artist, and that's all I can figure out.
I remember Snoop Dogg took a few shots at him in that song. I think it was on a demo tape or a promo tape called what the fuck was it called?
Let Him Understand Perfection.
Let Him Understand. There you go. Yeah.
Niggas saying they weak due to the fact that one nigga decided to leave and get his rap on elsewhere. Ask me if they care and I give you a stare like nope, you can't cope, they dope, but howdy.
And he takes a dig at him, and then I think on Doggy Style he took a few jabs at him too. And
Domino motherfuckers, what's happening?
Don't break my mama ass table.
in my youth, I wasn't picking up these things. It wasn't until I started searching on the internet what the fuck all of this was about, which is kind of how I got into you guys. So, on all that, how did you guys remain neutral when Snoop Dogg was taking jabs at him, but it was all kind of associated with you guys?
Let me give you a better perspective of that, okay? So,
all right, go ahead.
Let Him Understand Perfection. Waniac was in the group as well when we were
correct.
Foesum. Waniac as well. Triple Oak was in the Navy at that time. So you had Waniac, DJ Glaze, M&Msta, and T-Dubb, and Domino. But he decided to leave at some point, and we weren't aware of it at the time. So in my perspective, Snoop Dogg didn't like the way he did it. So he said, okay. He did the song, Let Him Understand Perfection. He threw a couple shots at him and let him know, it's kind of disrespectful the way he left the group unexpectedly without us knowing. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So you can understand the one rapper stepped and left and then you banned him. That shit ain't right, but Peep gang.
Did that create obstacles for you? Because now you had to fill in that MC slot.
For me, I was fortunate enough, man, to have some of the best rappers in the in the game in front of me, man. I got Snoop and I got Domino, and these two cats was beasts on the mics, you know, when it comes to rapping, man. So I was able to be right there and, you know, soak everything in from them. You know, there was things that I remember Snoop told me that I actually do to this day. So I was doing beats at the time, but then I had actually started rapping. And having them in front of me, man, you know, that just gave me a lot more fire, you know, and inspiration. When he left, you know, I knew I had to also step up too, you know.
And to add to that, as Domino proceeded to leave the group, you got to remember we still had DJ Glaze, M&Msta, T-Dubb, and Waniac. But then Waniac came to us like a man, which is my first cousin, and said that Warren G wanted them to help produce his album. So Waniac came to us like we were supposed to, and then he said, "Well, I'm gonna help Warren G. You know, I'm letting you guys know I'm leaving the group." And,
ask for the blessings.
You know, ask for his blessings. And we said, "Come on, Ken folk, you know, you got to go do that." So at the particular time, I wasn't even writing my raps. I wasn't even rapping. Then Eminem came out, he was busting. So when Glaze miraculously came out of the cut and he started rapping, I don't know where it came from, but DJ Glaze, a Filipino assassin, he was doing his thing. So I had to give it to him.
So make way for the F to the LP, go into a T, cause I'm kicking it like a G. So take heed to a Filipino bandit, while I make them understand. God diggity damn, Glaze, you make a nigga not wanna flow.
Then M&Msta the same way. He was programming the 808, doing the drum machine. Being that I grasp it very well because we listen to all the artists as well, like M&Msta explained. So I started putting on my hard hat and got with it. So we just stayed persistent and we stayed together.
We set a goal for ourselves, right? We said, you know, we're gonna release a record. We're gonna release an album, and it's gonna be called Perfection. And that was something that, you know, we pursued and we made it a point to finish, right? No matter how it was going to end up, right. whoever was going to end up being on it, you know, when we were kids, I mean, that was something that we always said we would do. So
tell me about that first. So from what I've been reading, there was a record you guys released before Perfection, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So tell me, I've heard, are those the tracks that ended up on the Lost Tapes, or was this something completely different?
Yeah, no, those were most of the songs that we had on the Lost Tapes. They were with a guy named Wes Crockett, and Wes was Big Wes was actually like partners with Suge at the time. So we met them, I guess, together at the same time. We met both Wes and Suge. I think it was at a Budweiser Superfest.
Oh,
was that a convention? Oh, my bad. Yeah, it was at it was something called a Black Radio Exclusive, a BRE in Long Beach. Yeah. So we got introduced to them, and Wes was the older dude. Suge was the younger dude, and Wes was the one that really took a liking to us, right? So, and it's just crazy because Suge ended up doing his own thing, right, and started Death Row Records with Dr. Dre, and we went with Wes because Wes was the older, more experienced dude, you know. And then they both knew Dick Griffey over at Solar Records, and eventually got access to that studio. That's the same studio that the Chronicles recorded at, right?
Welcome to Death Row.
Are you trying to tell me, or am I alluding to you guys could have possibly been on Death Row had you chosen to go with?
You know, you know what? There was a point where we had actually thought about that because the access was there. We had actually asked what do you call Big West? You know, like Big West want to go to Death Row and sign with Suge. And he was like, nah, God, I can't have that. Can't let you guys do that. Because he said that they had beef or something. He's like, nah, can't let you guys go over there.
Okay, so he was looking out for you in hindsight, right? If you considering where things ended up, man. Yeah, see, I think at the time you guys probably would have been like, damn, like we could have been right there on the because everybody, when they think about West Coast music, they and I see this all the time when I see posts online or I see videos on YouTube and people put these compilations together, and it's like, hey, there's more to the West Coast than just Death Row, right? And I think a lot of people just have a hard time, scratching the surface and finding that there's, I myself, I think that Foesum Perfection album is like top 5 out of LA fucking albums ever released. You know what I mean? I'll go off on a fucking on record and say that like that is my top 5 right there. Like you guys just stand out, you know, not only because of your production, but your lyricism too, right? Like T-Dubb was mentioning earlier, you know, for a DJ, specifically you, Glaze, like you can spit and you sound legit, you know. It doesn't sound corny when you're the DJ rapping.
M&M dropped a hit while we float too. Some low ride, no school beats. Speaking on life as a G from the streets.
As for Eminem, man, I was blown away when I first heard Ultimate Collaboration. I was like, what the? I had to rewind that shit. I don't know how many fucking times just to hear the, you know, I can't even begin to recite that because I get tongue tied, you know. But then, you know, when I listen to T-Dubb, like T-Dubb, the first time I heard you on a rap song, I had just downloaded Trigger Finger, Slow Pain, AOT, and You. I had a hard time discerning that you and AOT were separate people. Like for a few years, I thought that AOT had done both verses because you guys sounded so similar. But as I got exposed to more music, you know, I started picking up on your style specifically, and I really like that quick jab that you do, where you start doing a quick, you know, tongue twister.
It's inevitable that I'm running again, kicking backs. Now maybe the way that I'm my style keeps you on in check.
You know, and it just you guys, you know, even though you're a group, each one of you has an individual style. You know what I mean? And I really like that. Like Glaze, like I would say yours is more akin to like Dr. Dre and DJ Quick, where you handle production, you handle the DJing, scratching, and you rap, you know. Right. And then you have T-Dubb, who has like that quick style, you know, delivery with similarities that were pretty common in now that I think about it, were pretty common in West Coast music, where you hear like BG Knockout doing those little, you know, short tongue twisters. Snoop Dogg was doing them too, right? When he was like,
it's the capital S-O-S oppression, double O-P, D-Go double G-Y, D-Go double G, you see?
Right, and you got your own, you know, I can't even begin to recite some of yours because like they're too quick sometimes that I get tongue tied.
So now they label me that criminal nigga that's down the bus. The spread of the handle with minutes and straight kick up dust.
But then when I hear M&Msta, like M&Msta will flip fucking Spanglish and then do like a fucking full-on tongue twister. Like when I heard Ultimate Collaboration, well, when I heard both versions, right? Because you recycled that verse from the older demo tape you had from I think it's Let Them Understand.
Yeah.
I bury the different styles, my very show that I'm the greatest. And preliminaries, I was adversary, so don't even try to face this. I'm running and gunning and stunning, I'm bringing them to a complete halt. Flipping and dipping them with my lips like my mouth was doing a somersault.
Man, like the first time I heard it was on the Foesum album, and then when I started digging, you know, further into it, I realized like, holy shit, this fool was doing this like in '91. You know what I mean? Like that shit like even blew me away. Yeah, like that. I don't know. I think you guys don't get enough credit, and that's why and that's the whole purpose of my podcast, is to kind of shine light on albums and artists that like I think deserve more credit, because again, when people think about the West Coast, they have a very narrow view of what is music. But then I see that you guys are more, I don't know, this is another question my homie from Germany. He wanted to know if you guys get more love overseas than you do here at home.
I would say, yeah. I mean, you have to think about it, right? Like, most of the people that listen to music are programmed from radio.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I mean, and not to say that all radio music is bad, but most of it is bad.
Oh, Pete. Oh, fuckers. Gee, I wish I was big just once.
So, you know, there's I would say, I don't know. I mean, but at the same time, it's kind of whatever a company wants to push, right?
Exactly.
Whatever they want to promote. So,
okay.
You know, what you hear on the radio is not necessarily the best music that's out there in the world. There's a lot of talented people that you never hear about, right? Radio kind of wins. We realize that, though. I mean, because every artist, if we want to survive in this business, right, we need radio. But you know, we've kind of operated, you know, after dealing with our label, when we had our record label, it wasn't that great of an experience. That label kind of you know, signed a bunch of artists and would just like throw them against the wall, and whatever would stick, you know, they would promote, right?
Are we talking about Tommy Boy or are we talking about
No,
something
not Tommy
previous?
Boy, like Big Beat, Big Beat Atlantic,
Okay.
right? So they had signed a few groups, right? And it was funny because the A&R that we were with actually signed DJ Quick to Profile. We actually had a lot of faith in him, but he's only one guy at a label, right? So he has to take orders just like everybody else does at work. So but their whole idea was, let's throw a single out and see what it does, and if it kicks off, it kicks off, right? And then they'll pour a lot more money into you.
Right.
But we just found that, having them in control of us and like making decisions that probably weren't, what we necessarily wanted as far as our best interests, it kind of left a bad taste in our mouth, right? So when we saw that we could, record our own albums, and we ended up, getting some distribution overseas in Japan and Europe and stuff. I mean, even though, it would have been nice to have the notoriety, right, as some of the other groups and stuff, we had more control of our music. And that's why when you go out to the internet, there's a lot more product out there on us. There's a lot more articles, interviews about us, right, as opposed to other artists who relied, heavily on their label, right?
Exactly.
So it's like they don't know how to navigate shit, right? So, no, I'm saying everything that you see out there on the internet, social media, YouTube, whatever, was started directly from us. You know what I mean?
Nice.
We never have really relied on a record label.
Okay.
So.
And then
So
consider the places, excuse me for interrupting. Then
No, go ahead.
consider the places that we have been, the places that we have toured. You only see a lot of big artists go to these certain areas around the world. We've been to China multiple times. We've been to Japan. We've been to Switzerland. We've been everywhere. You know what I mean? We've covered a lot of ground. Taiwan. A lot of people don't go to these areas, so we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Nice. So speaking of Japan, I'm actually holding the Japanese release of Foesum, Perfection. And this was like the only physical copy. Like I like collecting records still. I think, Bluetooth can only do so much for you, right? I don't want to depend on Spotify or Apple Music to listen to my music, because at any point in time that fucking music can be gone for whatever dispute that, it goes on. And so I think, listening to CD is still superior. And so I'm holding, that Foesum Perfection album. And man, like, I don't know what it is about Japan, but they have this niche, this love for West Coast artists, and it's crazy because every once in a while, like, I'll look for an album and I gotta import it from Japan. I'm like, God damn, like, how the fuck did they end up with the music that I'm trying to find here? You know what I mean? And like, the shit I'm looking for is local. Like, it'll be like some San Diego artist, or it'll be some like LA artist from the underground. And I'm like, fuck, like, how is it that it ended up in Japan and I'm over here like less than 100 miles away,
Damn.
Yeah. They have a whole scene, man. That's, they love you can find it, right? Like, if you go on, Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff, you'll see that they love West Coast music. They love, the old school break in and pop locking and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's like,
their whole lowrider scene is crazy. I'm amazed at how much they've and it's not like they're just imitating, like they're actually, I don't know, I think they're legitly like, doing this out of love and respect, not just because they want to do it as a fad. Like they're very devoted to that craft,
Yeah, no, when we used to go out there and we would see like the Impalas and stuff that they would fix up, they had like state of the art, electronics Impalas. It's like,
yeah, they got digital dashboards. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so they would. Yeah, they would have like digital dashboards on their Impalas. It's like, what the hell?
Digital dash, right.
Yeah, they at no expense, right? It would they would take a shell of a car, man, and just make it even better than brand new.
Yeah, exactly. So as I'm looking at the track list here for Perfection, I'm really in awe of like how well crafted the sound was from beginning to end on Perfection. And as I look at the featured artists, you guys got people from the Dub Shack, you got people from the Twins, then you had like AOT and Nino Brown. And I'm wondering, like, how did you guys start collaborating with Kid Frost early on, and then meeting up with the K-Day Mixmasters, and then finally putting all of this together? Like, you guys got one foot on the underground, one foot in the mainstream, but you're also tied into Latino rap. If you guys can shed some light on that.
The way we hooked up with them, I remember we went to a video shoot. That was a
Right.
Dre Day.
You're right.
We went to Dre Day video shoot. And they were doing Little Ghetto Boy and they were doing Dre Day. And when we went, I think we were there in the morning or sometime, but for some reason, that particular day, I just wasn't feeling too hot. I was just sleepy still or something. So when everybody went in, I just stayed in the car. And I was like laid back in the car. I think I was sleeping or something. So while I was asleep, I could hear people rapping. And I leaned back like, what was this over here? It's like, man, let me hop on and go over here and see what's up. And in that circle, it was there was Rage, it was Little Half Dead.
The homie from Booyah Tribe too, Gangsta Red.
Red was there. Okay, oh yeah, Red too. Red was there. Damn, it was something. Frost was there, and it was somebody else. Oh, was it Corrupt?
I'm not sure.
It was somebody else right there. But anyway, so I went over it. I'm listening to everybody bust. Like, man, let me slide in here and bust. So I went in there and busted. And as soon as I finished busting, Ross pulled me to the side. It was like, hey man, I want you to write my album. Yeah. And I want you to be in the studio, man. I want you to, do this and that. I'm like, all right. I said, hey man, check this out. It isn't just me. There's more of us, but everybody's inside of the video, doing the video. So when everybody came out, we introduced everybody. And he said, I want y'all to come to the studio. Let's say that was on a Friday or Saturday. I think we went to the studio either Sunday or Monday, and we went to the studio. That's when we hooked up with Tony G.
Oh, right on. So like I interact with a lot of people that have opinions about Frost, and
I've heard
and just to keep it light, I think more people are inclined to thinking that Frost closed more doors than he opened. And personally, like I actually enjoy Kid Frost. Like I think he's a little underappreciated, especially as time progresses. Like granted that the internet, once you put a fucking rumor out there, it's damn near impossible to extinguish it, whether it's true or false, or not entirely true or not entirely false. It's just kind of hard to extinguish it. So for me, like just appreciating music from the perspective of, was there quality, was it good, how many people did he collaborate with, how many people did he help out? I think he did a lot. I think he did a lot more than what people want to acknowledge or admit. But there's a lot of hate that he gets. But it sounds like he was inviting you guys into the studio to record. So was that him featuring you guys, or was that you guys featuring him?
With us going there and meeting Tone, that just opened up everything for us because he actually helped us to do our album, The Perfection.
Right.
So it kind of opened up like a whole lot of things with that.
But I think the intention in the beginning was for Frost had wanted, he needed some help writing it.
Yeah, that's what the main goal was, because we wrote a few songs for Kid Frost that was on his album. I think was it with Thump Records in?
No, that was with
no, Virgin. He was on Virgin.
Yeah,
at that time.
Songs for him. We went to the studio
and Virgin kept him.
Yeah, we actually wrote a few songs.
What?
For him. One with Rick James that was my favorite.
Oh, Marty.
Yeah.
Marty, okay. Yeah, that one came out on
studio.
That one came out on Ruthless.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah, he released it.
Oh, easy. But yeah, I know there was other songs, but I guess
that's how we do it. We wrote a song called "That's How We Do It."
But I guess they released them, or something, or they wouldn't let Easy get them, or something.
Okay, so that song did get released later. I think it was on Celeb Entertainment, so that was like a label that they created. They released like a compilation album in, I think it was 2001, that had older tracks. So there was that song, That's How We Do It, right? So the version that I've heard samples, I forget, some oldie, and then you hear the funky worm on it. It doesn't sound like it was completely finished, but it's still very listenable,
Time to put it work, yo, whenever the shit pop. Crawling in my tray, Chevrolet on them things. Calling Mr. Baller, Mr. Mac with a scratch spitting big game.
I like it a lot. I was just wondering what year that was. So now that you guys said that you wrote that shit, it's probably what, 92, 93 that song was supposed to originally release?
Maybe something like that. Yeah.
Did you guys also write the song the diss track that he did for Cypress Hill? It was called King of the Hill. No. Okay. No, that was probably AOT then.
I found my bitch up on Strawberry Hill, and one little punk that was trying to be real. The real one, yes, the funky built one. Couldn't get your own style, so you had to steal one.
Okay. Now, going to that song, "Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None." Was that song, like, from my understanding, that was probably the original concept to what eventually became the Death Row version? Is that correct, or do you guys have a different story that you guys want to elaborate on?
To be honest with you, you were kind of slightly off on that. I believe that Death Row did that song first. Ain't No Fun, right?
No, what it was that they had already did that. Remember from back in the days?
That's an old song.
Yeah, it's an old song, or at least the title was.
The title
they had already
right.
did that one back in the days.
Gotcha.
We happen to use. I think we used a title or had this song, but that song that we did that came off the album with Solar with Big West. That was
okay.
Yeah.
Ain't no fun if the homies can't get enough past the pussy, past the pussy. Ain't no fun if the homies can't get enough.
I assume you guys don't have like the originals, like the masters for that, because the lost tapes, you know, although I like some of those songs, I could tell that, like, you know, the quality still needed to be polished a little bit. But
well, I mean, that was before I started really producing. Right.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
That's kind of one of the reasons why I started producing, is because we would have to call in a bunch of guys to do tracks, and we didn't have a lot of control. We had to rely a lot on their sounds and the way that they mix and just everything, right? And when you're an artist like that, and you can't really put into words what you want, right? You kind of get whatever you get, you know, and it just makes it hard. So that's why after that whole experience, that's when we hooked up with Tony G.
Tony G, motherfucker, that's right.
He was the one that taught me how to use a SP1200, and that's when we made Little Something Something and listened to the sound. It was on SP1200s originally. And then,
that song still fucking bumps, dude. Like, I can't tell you how many times I play that a week.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that when we find a sample that we like, you know what I'm saying, if we can continue listening to it over and over again, we know that we got a good record. And so, but yeah, Tony was the one that taught me how to use SP1200, and then eventually I upgraded to an MPC 3000. So yeah, the rest of by the time we were starting to work on Perfection, that was the drum machine that we were using. So
on that and I'm trying to figure out how this song came about, but think about it. It was Slow Pain and AOT going under the name 3 Deep. And then when I heard your Lost Tapes album or compilation, I heard a slightly different version that I like a lot more because of a few reasons. I think it's Diane Gordon that's on the hook. And then that, yeah.
But
I mean,
you know what?
those
Those aren't our songs though. Those songs, I think are AOT. Yeah, those are AOT songs.
We were just featured.
We were featured on those songs. Yeah, those are his songs.
Yeah, that shit was dope. But like, I have no idea why your verse was cut, Eminem, because I enjoyed your verse on that. And this is
was it on so that again that they were putting out? They
on that first verse.
We did 2 versions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't really remember the other verse. I remember the one with her singing, with Diane Gordon singing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been. It might have been that maybe because Eminem came very rough on that song, right? I don't know.
See, that's the shit that like really weirds me out about record companies sometimes, because I'm like, what the fuck were they really thinking? Because that song came out on a State of Emergency, I think was the name of the compilation, and it was like it didn't have that many great tracks, but like I kept that one from AOT and Slow Pain because there's very like they formed a group called 3 Deep that was supposed to be signed to Ruthless, and it consisted of Slow Pain, AOT, and what's his name, Frost, and then Eazy-E died, and that shit went to shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll just hold on to this song because of what it means.
You better take it from me, AOT. You And if you wanna live life free, you better take it from me, AOT. You better think about what's going on.
And then I heard the Lost Tapes version of it. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Like, you know, Foesum's involved in this shit. And I'm like, damn, the synthesizer is so much better. Diane Gordon on the chorus is so much better than what they previously had. And then just the beat is slightly different. I'm like, damn, like they should have just gone with this shit. But, you know, you're right. You know, maybe the company did say like, you know, maybe it's a little too real for what we want to put out, right?
Yeah, and also I think the original might have been a sample, so maybe they had to get away from the sample.
Oh, the clearances. Yeah. That's another one too. Because there's a Slow Pain song, and I only found this out because I saw your Instagram. No, not Instagram. What the fuck was it? Facebook post about this where you're like, I bet you all didn't know that I produced a song for Slow Pain, and then they fucking changed your name and credited like Daz Dillinger, or you know, or the name that he goes by. You know, in Death Row, the song's called, your version is called Hopping Up the Street, but the song is called Ride With Me. And it's actually DJ Glaze on the production, but I'm like, how the fuck did Daz get tied into getting credited incorrectly for this? Like,
I don't know.
Weird. No idea.
I don't know if that was Thump trying to get like other people to fucking listen, like, oh yeah, we got Daz from the Dog Pound that is on this involved somehow or some way. Because I don't know, that sounds like something Bill Walker would do. But but yeah, like when I heard you know, Who's Got Your Back, I was like, damn,
got your back and you got mine.
Everybody just getting on that track was just something different, man. I loved hearing that. I loved hearing the sound that, you know, that you and Tony G crafted, and you know, everybody's verse on that was just like, this is some dope shit. Like, how did you guys come together for that one song?
Yeah, well, actually, there was another producer too that actually came up with that track, and then you know, me and Tony kind of produced on top of it, right? So we flipped it a little bit, but there was a guy named Cleb that was that helped on some of the production for the album too. So, and I think Cleb did some work for Old Genius and Baby Bash, maybe Lightfoot too. So yeah, it was one of our homies from San Pedro.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right on. Player. That shit's still one of my favorite songs to listen to. Just again, you know, yeah. T-Dubb just gets down on that. Like, fuck, man. I wish I could recite this for you, but you have this quick way of fucking rapping that I can't imitate. You know what I mean?
So now they label me that criminal nigga that's down the bus. They're spreading their hand with minutes and straight kick up dust.
Yeah, and that shit was dope, man. You know, and I don't know, there's so much I could say about that, but like those collaborations that you guys had with a lot of Hispanic artists, like I'm still really intrigued with. I think it was Deuce Mob where they're dissing DJ Quick. Were you aware that they were gonna throw jabs at DJ Quick?
Nah,
not at all.
I'm not.
Not at all.
Nah, because I wouldn't even put myself in a situation like that if I knew it was gonna be dissing Quick at all. You know what I'm saying? Not the name.
So were you not in the same recording studio when that song was recorded, or did everybody do their verses separately? Like, how did that even come about?
You know what it was? Actually, Frost had asked us to participate on that song. We did ours separately. We weren't there when they did their verses. Because had we heard the verses, I was like, no, we ain't. You know, we're not gonna diss the West Coast. You know, when our our partners over here, you know, even though we're not like that, but I'm just saying, nah, we weren't gonna diss him like that. But had we known, no, we didn't know until it was put together and put out.
So back your ass the fuck up as I creep through. Cause here comes M&M crawling in the 7 dukes. T-Dubb's on the side throwing up his set.
What about that other song, fucking Trigger Finger? Was that something that you guys, you know, did on your own, or did Frost have some input there, or was that something else completely?
That was a Slow Pain.
That was a Slow Pain. Tony G asked, well, maybe Slow Pain wanted us to get on there with him, you know, be a feature, but that's basically Slow Pain and Tony G. And we just, I guess, happened to be there and we got on the track.
Man, like it just, I love hearing you guys all across these different songs because, like, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot more that could have been done on the West Coast than, you know, what we're, again, going back to Death Row, how that's like the poster boy for West Coast music. Because you guys have been everywhere, right? Like, I've seen you guys collaborate with Japanese artists. I've seen you guys collaborate with other people abroad and on the underground. And it's like, man, like I wish this was more of a primary focus on trying to build and you know, sustain West Coast rap music, because you look at the South and, you know, everybody collaborates with each other. Yeah. But, you know, on the West Coast, for some reason, you know, whether it's record company politics or personal disputes or whatever fucking reason, it's like shit that should have happened just never does, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, sometimes it's hard to collaborate because if you have a good song, that means that those people always have to be with you whenever you do shows and stuff too. You know what I mean? So maybe that's one of the reasons why people kind of learn, like, maybe, you know, maybe we should just keep it within the camp, or just keep it, you know, keep it to myself, to keep it to our own group, right?
Right. Because,
you know, people, they like the song, and then if they can't see everybody performing it, you know, it's not always the same. So but
that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So when you guys finally started recording, because your trials and tribulations, your obstacles, like, it sounds like perfection was 10 years in the making, you know, like all this effort and you know, everything just culminated to that album dropping in 1996. But how was it, like, finally realizing, hey, we got a legitimate record deal, we're getting music videos, we're getting airplay? Like, tell me how that album came to be, if you guys can, you know, summarize that story for me.
Well, I mean, it was the beginning. For us, it was the beginning, right? Because everything we had done before that was working towards that one album, right? So all those years of just trying to learn the craft and learning how to write songs and then just dealing with all the politics and networking and stuff, it's kind of like, all right, now we got, you know, we got the store open, basically, right? Mm-hmm. It's like that's kind of how we looked at it. So, and all the money that we got from, you know, for the budget for that album, we actually put right back into the project, because for us it was a beginning. It wasn't like we were gonna take all the money and split it and, you know, go buy cars or whatever, you know. No, we spent it all on whether it was, you know, buying equipment or you know, paying musicians or singers or whoever, you know, to come in and you know, play instruments or whatever. We put everything into it, right, into that record. So like I said, that's why initially there was even a possibility of the album not coming out. That's why Tommy Boy came in, Penalty Tommy Boy came in, and you know, Big Beat wasn't sure what they wanted to do, and we had talked to Tommy Boy before, and so they're the ones that actually said, let us put it out, we'll release it, right? So that's how we ended up on that album, came out on that label. So,
okay, so was there
Running Game?
Mm-hmm. Was there any possibilities that this could have ended up somewhere else? Because, you know, the Twins and Warren G ended up on Def Jam, right?
Yeah.
And then with Snoop Dogg still in Death Row at that time, and then with your connections with Tony G and, you know, Frost working closely with Ruthless, did you guys shop that album around, or did that only get introduced to Tommy Boy and you guys just took the deal on you know?
Yeah, so the three labels at the time was Ruthless, Tommy Boy and Big Beat Atlantic, right?
Okay.
So Ruthless Easy was going through all that stuff. There was a lot of rumors and all kinds of stuff going on with Ruthless at the time, right? And we didn't want to get caught up in all that controversy. So and and Ice Cube had just released No Vaseline probably, I think, right around that time too. So it just or West Side Connection. I don't know. It just it didn't seem like a good time. I don't know. And Big Beat had already offered us a pretty good advance and had contracts and stuff. Tommy Boy was they kind of wanted us to do more songs, so and sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we would have went that route, because Tommy Boy is better at developing artists, right? They're not like the throw it against the wall and see if it sticks mentality. Maybe things would have been different if we would have signed originally with Tommy Boy. But I mean, it's just we wanted the guaranteed, right? We wanted something, we wanted our record to come out, because you can imagine all the homies from the neighborhood and everybody that we talked to. When's it coming out? When is the video? So as soon as we had the opportunity, we just thought, well, let's just see what they could do. They'll put it out, and then it'll only be the beginning, So.
Okay. And then did you all have like a decision where you guys all kind of like had, you voted your concerns about which direction to go to, or did you guys unanimously decide, this is better for the group, or
of course,
did somebody else want to go?
Yeah. Of course. I mean, it's a business decision, right? It's a family decision. So
yeah. See, and that's one thing I admire about Foesum is that, like, despite all the bullshit, man, you guys are pretty solid. Like, you've seen Cypress Hill break up, saw NWA break up, you've seen West Side Connection break up over some shit, and you guys have kept it true since day one, and that's like unheard of.
This is dedicated to the niggas that was down from day one.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're brothers, man. You know what I mean? We've been brothers since we were little kids. So I mean, it's almost like if I won the lottery, M&Dub won the lottery too.
All right, on. I'm still a little curious as to despite having the connections with Snoop Dogg, you guys never had a song out in the 90s that featured Snoop Dogg. Are you guys able to speak on that, or?
Yeah, we can touch on that. I think that at the time, you got to remember Snoop was with Death Row.
Right.
And Suge didn't really like his artists participating with other artists.
Damn.
What's his name? Warren G is a testament to that.
Right. So Warren G he wasn't even on Death Row. He had to go through the route of Def Jam, which was better for him, because he blew up just as big as Snoop. He toured around internationally before Snoop did. He had a big name at that time, but I think that's basically what it was. We wanted to keep everything Death Row. They were a hot commodity at the time, which it didn't bother us because we still were doing what we had to do. Now, like I said, as for the Twins, they participated on our album. Those are my cousins, so that's how we did it.
I see these features and I see collaborations. I mean, you guys frequented Bull Rock in your music. You had the part of the Twins in there, but I was always curious why Snoop never appeared on there, even after the fact. Though, are you guys still somewhat cool with him? Like, what's your relationship with the former artists that were on there, both Domino, Snoop, and the other artists that you guys frequently featured?
Well, we don't really talk to Domino much. We don't see Domino at all. But we're still cool with Snoop, of course. He had a birthday party for the Twins, their 53rd birthday party at his home, and of course we were all invited, so we had a good time.
Nice. So I think I kind of touched on this earlier, but what do you think it is about your zone, right, east side of Long Beach, that produces so many artists, and not just like popping out artists left and right, but like producing quality music? Because I really love Lil Half Dead's first two albums were classics to me. Your albums are classics. Snoop's album has debuted, and I'll even tie in the Chronic because that's he participated so heavily on that. And then I listened to Warren G and I listened to the Twins. Like you guys have such a, I don't know, there's got to be something in the water in east side of Long Beach. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I've heard people ask ask that before too. A lot of times, like, what is it like y'all just got this certain thing, a certain type of sound. I think what it is it's just a certain sound that we have, and it just sticks out. For some reason, there's some kind of sound or some kind of element that we have, and it just it sticks out because people have asked that, like what is it? What is it about y'all?
Yeah.
How it happens.
The other thing I was curious is while most rappers and group members, like they shift their sound, like if I listen to DJ Quick's music, every album just sounds completely different, which some people think is a good thing, and some people might say like, well, I don't particularly like this way. But you guys have a very consistent sound. Now, is there a reason why you guys stuck to that G-Funk sound despite everybody else kind of distancing themselves away? Or is there, another motive for why you guys never really steered away from your traditional sound?
So, I mean, that's a good observation. The fact that we like what we like and we stick to is because we do music that we enjoy, right? So we do it for the homies, right? We do it for the people that we listen that we know listens to us, right? So it's like it's a certain demographic that we make music for. At the same time, you have to understand that Snoop is I don't like to keep talking about Snoop, right? But he's an example. He's making music for the whole world, right? And so that's why he's able to tour, and he's got he's got this whole brand, right? Because he's touching all these different demographics of people. So for our next album, we will be starting to maybe do get a little bit out of our comfort zone and do stuff that maybe might appeal to a larger audience. And I don't want to say it's selling out, but or going pop or anything like that. But really what it is just maybe just trying to make something that is more, I would say just more 2023. You know what I'm saying? Because without the power of radio, it's tough for us to get in, to do some of the bigger shows and to just to get the listeners, that we probably could use, right, to get our numbers up.
So do you think in 2023 radio is still a primary form of getting your music out there, or do you think that the internet?
Well, yes and no, right? So I mean, people rely on streaming, people rely on YouTube, social media and stuff like that, but also radio, right? It's just that you see the difference between an artist who doesn't get radio play versus an artist that does. You know what I mean? And people that get programmed to hear this music every single day or whatever, it's like it's like when something is familiar to them, it's just easier to relate to, right? And so we're going to be focusing on trying to at least make a few singles that can kind of reach those masses, right? And we're going to be smart about it too. So it's all the time, every time we make music, there's a fine line that we walk, right? It's like it's easy to be corny, man. It's easy to fall into being corny, to being, to be popcorn, to sell out, it's hard to stay in the middle where it's like, you're trying to stay true to what you love, right? To what is dope to you, right? And what would be dope to somebody in middle school or in high school.
That's the thing, is that when I started listening to music, there was something infectious about West Coast music, and I didn't realize that was a West Coast sound. I just really liked the way that Nate Dogg sounded. I liked the way that Exhibit sounded, and I was like, man, I really want to know more about these cats. And mind you, this is while 50 Cent was blowing up, right? So like I've never really been into 50 Cent. I didn't catch on to the wave of G Unit. To this day, I still don't listen to The Game. Like to me, The Game sounds more like an implant. Like that was like Dr. Dre's last, ace up his sleeve, trying to put something else from Compton, and then realizing that shit was a bust.
Damn.
And that's not me dissing The Game. That's just me, like my perspective on what West Coast artists sound like. That's why I kept on digressing more and deeper into the 90s. And as I'm looking at it now, I'm just like, there's something infectious about, West Coast music. There's something interesting about like the samples that we like to persist. And you guys have a very good balance of making something that is kind of popish still sound good. You know what I mean? So like, for instance, I like this one song that you guys did with Diane Gordon called I Betcha She Don't Love You or something like that. It's a dope track, you know what I mean? I could see like this was meant for radio play, but at the same time you guys have that like sound, it's just it's not entirely pop, but it's like it's something that I can play in the bar, at a barbecue or hanging out. Like for me, I try not to listen to music that is misogynistic, right? So you guys tend to not use the word bitch a lot. You guys use skirts, you guys use a different synonym for females that isn't offensive. And was that purposeful, or was that something that you guys just decided like, hey, we don't want to sound too misogynistic, or we just want to be able to get on radio play? Like, what was the purpose of making your music craft and sound that way?
I can remember before doing something like about cussing and saying this and that. And I remember somebody actually telling me that. And I also remember somebody betting that I could. And I was like, I can't do what? You can't cuss, say this and that. And it's like, all right, okay, we'll see. I'm gonna make sure that I don't. But I also know that to do radio songs, you can't have any kind of stuff like that. And also you learn how to do albums without having to cuss. You don't have to cuss to get your point across. There's other ways you can do it. To make things
right
without having to do that.
That's something I really appreciated about you guys is that when I listen to music, I try to be very thorough about what I'm listening to and how I'm consuming it. And I've noticed that you guys, steered away from certain verbiage. Not to say that it was 100%, never used, but you guys kind of steered away from that. Same thing, like I heard some of your early work, and then I listened to Perfection and Beyond, and I noticed that both yourself, Glaze, and M&M, you guys don't really drop N-bombs in your music, aside from those early works. Was that something conscious that you guys decided on doing, or is that something that just naturally came about?
I think that was just something that naturally came about. We didn't discuss it on should we say it or should we not say it. It was just when we wrote our raps, that's the way it came out. It didn't come out that way. As far as having to use the N word or the B word to get our point across, you can use other words just to get your point across. Not saying we haven't used it before.
No, of course.
For days or something, but that's nothing we sat around to talk about. Like, hey, let's not do it, guys. It's just, I don't think we even really looked at it that way. It's just we wrote the raps and we did it and we performed it. You know what I mean? That was it.
What else did I want to say? This is a question specific to M&M. So there's the internet's an interesting place because it's full of information, but there's just as much, if not more, misinformation out there. And there's this rumor going around that you have a brother that raps. Is that correct?
A brother that raps? No.
No? Okay. So someone...
I have a brother, yeah, but no, he doesn't rap.
He doesn't rap. This comment keeps on popping up every once in a while, especially like whenever I post something about Foesum or if it's on YouTube or something, I'll see that there's a guy named Evil G that did a song somewhere in the Harbor area. I don't know where he's from, but I don't know. Are you related? Do you know anybody
I do know
that goes by that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. That's a homie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you guys aren't blood or anything, right? You guys are just homies from.
Yeah, that's a homie. Yeah, but I what do you call it? But I did a song with him.
This is Evil G.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how that rumor started. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. So did you grow up in Dominguez neighborhood?
Well, you know what? With me, it's like I grew up there, but my family roots run like all over LA.
Okay.
You know, I don't know how well familiar you are with it, but my family roots, they run like all over the place.
Yeah, so my wife is from the San Gabriel Valley, so anytime I'm out, you know, if I'm cruising around LA, it'll be mostly in the San Gabriel Valley, whether I'm in Monte, if I'm in Pomona, where my wife is from.
And that's how we do it in Pomona, fool.
Now, has the city of Long Beach been good to the musicians? Like, not necessarily embracing it, but making it easier for musicians to come up and such? Or do you think that like Long Beach still carries that stigma of gang feuds, gang affiliations, and just negative music that may have been associated with gangster rap? Like, do you think the city has come around to acknowledging that it is a hub for artists?
Good question. I would think so. I don't see anything deterring it from becoming a place where artists can come out of Long Beach, because you've seen so many, and you know, you still have some that are coming out now. You may not hear about them as much, but they still have, there's quite a few artists that are in Long Beach, younger guys that are coming out. There's gang violence in any city you go to, but you still have artists that make their way out of there, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I'm not a gang member myself, but you start seeing all that shit come up in, you know, as early as middle school, or for some people might have even been elementary school. I mean, how was that for you guys to keep it positive and go into that music without being involved directly 100% to the streets?
It's like, as far as the street goes, it's like those like street ties, that's always gonna be there, no matter what. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I wanted to walk away from some kind of stuff or some kind of way, those street ties is already there because it's in my family. There's nothing I could actually do about that. You know, it's embedded in the family already. You know?
Do you guys think that like that stops people from listening to other artists, or do you think that music has the power to overcome those issues?
Universal, so it doesn't really matter. And actually, good music is good music. That's the bottom line. It doesn't matter who it is or wherever it comes from. Good music is good music.
Now, do you guys think that West Coast music is ever going to return to its former glory, or do you think that those days are just long gone? Like, honestly speaking.
I just think music in a whole is different now. You got different. It's just different now. You know what I mean? The music is different. So to say it'll be back at the apex that it was, who knows? In the next 10 years or so, who knows? But you got more of the internet. And it's just, music is totally different now. It's just totally different, from my perspective.
One thing that I was always told is, if you make good music, the people will come. They're gonna like it no matter what. If your music is good, they'll like it or they'll find it. They're gonna find it.
I hear that. Now, I wanted to know, you know, besides those albums that you guys have released, and I think you guys might have mentioned that there's something else coming out. What's the future for Foesum look like?
So we're in the process now of looking for new tracks and you know, putting stuff together for a new album for next year, hopefully. So,
is that going to be released on physical format, or do you guys plan on going the, you know, what's been the popular thing to do, streaming and, you know?
Probably both. We have to focus on streaming, right? Because that's where most people get their music nowadays. But we do want to do some like limited edition runs of CDs and maybe vinyl. Of our album, yeah. So, you know, that's the other thing too, is that it's it's a little tougher to make money these days because you don't have those physical, you know, the you know, physical CDs, right, to make money off of. So the people that want those items, you know, it'll be more collectible, so that it's going to cost a little bit more too. You know,
That's the crazy thing where music is headed, because you could have 10 million streams and your revenue from that is going to be significantly less than what it would be from selling a million albums, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why that's the other thing too, is that we're also coming up with looking at is it going to be worth it for us, and what are we going to do to to be able to cover just at least general expenses, right, of putting out a record. So
merchandise, man.
Yeah. So if all your listeners go to foesumofficial.com, we've got lots of merch on there, right? So we definitely encourage everybody that listens to our music to go out and buy stuff, to support us, right? Because all that money really goes back into making the music, and getting new product out for everybody. So
definitely. And thank you guys for this conversation. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to share that I didn't get a chance to touch on?
No, I think we've covered quite a bit. I mean, just we just want everyone to follow us if you're not already following us on Instagram, TikTok, right? So it's all Foesum Official. Same thing with the website, foesumofficial.com. And just stay up with us, keep following us. We'll definitely have some new music coming out pretty soon, so
right on. Any shout outs you guys want to give before we call it a day?
No, man, just to you, Wise. We appreciate just you staying with us, man, and just doing a dope podcast, man. We really appreciate it. So.
Speaking of, I know you were touching on it, and then we got a little bit interrupted. How did you guys come across that little tribute I did to what your music means to my culture and the underground?
So we got lots of reporters everywhere, man. So we got a lot of homies on the internet, and on the streets, and they report back to us all the time, man. So it's like whenever we hear people talking about us, whether it's good or bad, we hear everything. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I said it was important to set up this interview with you, man, because we appreciate all the research that you've done, right, and all the props that you've given us, because we spend a lot of time putting this stuff together, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it. So it's good to know that we have people that appreciate it.
No, most definitely. Again, some of the things I may get wrong because I wasn't there. And the other thing is that there's only so much that was really out there that I could grasp information, like valid information from. But I like doing these interviews because what I think separates me from other people interviewing you guys or anybody else in general is that, like, I'm a fan of the music. You know what I mean? I'm not just running a channel to do interviews for the sake of interviews. I actually grew up listening to your music. I'm aware of your samples. I'm aware of your efforts, your outputs, your features. Like, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to this shit. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to have this talk with me and letting me share your story with my followers.
Yeah, we appreciate that, man.
Appreciate you as well, man. Thank you for taking the time to interview us and doing your research, man. You did a real good job.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, man. You guys stay up. Appreciate everything, and thanks again for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you, man.
All right, Wise. Thanks a lot, brother.
All right, bro.
All right, stay up. Peace.
All right, man. Later.
Right.
Thank you for listening and supporting the channel. And like I always say, just chill till the next episode. Boom.